They were cooking for one, sometimes two, but they were feeding a lifetime of memories. These were the meals that stretched pennies into plates, turned scraps into comfort, and made sure no elder went to bed hungry. In small kitchens, on quiet evenings, African American seniors kept traditions alive with dishes that were simple, affordable, and deeply satisfying. This is The Lost Taste, and today we're uncovering 25 forgotten soul food meals for seniors living alone that cost pennies. These meals weren't just cheap, they were smart, resourceful, and full of history. If you believe food tells a story, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's honor the meals that carried generations through hard times. Chicken foot stew. This dish was the definition of turning overlooked ingredients into gold. Chicken feet, cleaned carefully and peeled, were boiled for hours until they released collagen into the broth, creating a thick, silky stew. With onions, maybe a carrot or potato and a little seasoning, it became rich and nourishing. Seniors loved it because it was cheap and deeply filling. But modern cooks often avoid it because cleaning and preparing the feet takes patience and care. Peanut meatloaf inspired by agricultural teachings that promoted peanuts as protein, this dish replaced expensive meat with ground-roasted peanuts, breadcrumbs, onion, and egg. Baked like a traditional meatloaf, it had a nutty, savory flavor and fed a household at almost no cost. It faded as ground beef became cheaper and more accessible. Bone-in, salmon croquettes. Canned salmon was affordable and packed with nutrients, including calcium from the soft bones that were mashed right into the mixture. Combined with cornmeal or flour and fried into patties, these croquettes were crispy outside and tender inside. Today, many people remove the bones, losing both nutrition and the original texture. Smothered rabbit was once common, especially for those with rural roots. Dredged in flour, fried, then slow-cooked in gravy, it became tender and flavorful. For seniors, it was a reminder of earlier days when hunting or trading for game was normal. Today, rabbit is hard to find in stores. Salt pork and milk gravy. This was pure survival cooking. Salt pork slices were fried, and the rendered fat was used to make a thick white gravy with flour and milk. Served over biscuits, it was rich, salty, and incredibly filling. It faded due to health concerns and changing tastes. Chitlin loaf chitterlings, once cleaned and boiled, were chopped and pressed into a loaf, then chilled until firm. Sliced cold, it was a way to stretch a labor-intensive ingredient into multiple meals. Today, even people who eat chitlins rarely prepare them this way. Sweet macaroni. Pudding macaroni wasn't just savory, it could be dessert. Cooked noodles were baked with milk, sugar, eggs, nutmeg, and raisins into a sweet custard. It was cheap and filling, but modern palates rarely accept sweet pasta. Lard tea cakes. These soft cookies were made with lard instead of butter, making them affordable and long-lasting. Stored in tins, they could last for weeks, giving seniors something sweet without frequent baking. Coffee soup. A bowl of hot coffee poured over stale biscuits or cornbread created a quick, warm breakfast. It was cheap, energizing, and comforting, especially for those used to long workdays. Fried tripe, or cow stomach, was boiled until tender, then fried in seasoned cornmeal. It was chewy, flavorful, and inexpensive. Today, organ meats are less common in mainstream diets. Onion pie. Caramelized onions baked into a simple custard inside a crust made a savory pie that cost almost nothing. It was a hard times dinner that disappeared once meat became affordable again. Blackberry roly-poly. This rustic dessert used dough rolled with blackberries and either boiled or baked. It was filling, sweet, and made from foraged fruit. Stewed green tomatoes, chopped green tomatoes cooked with bacon grease, sugar, and breadcrumbs created a sweet and savory side dish that has largely been overshadowed by fried green tomatoes. Pigtails and turnip greens. Pigtails added richness and gelatin to greens, creating a silky pot of flavorful vegetables. Today, smoked turkey or ham hocks have replaced them. Crackling biscuits. Biscuits filled with crispy pork cracklings added flavor and texture without needing extra meat. These are rare today, unless someone renders their own lard. Hominy and sausage. Hash hominy fried with sausage and onions created a hearty skillet meal that filled the stomach quickly and cheaply. Hominy is now far less common in everyday cooking. Mock oysters, corn fritters, grated, corn fried in bacon, fat-created fritters that mimic the texture and flavor of oysters. It was a creative substitute when seafood wasn't affordable. Pan-fried porgy or whiting. These small, bony fish were fried whole and eaten carefully, bones and all. They were cheap and widely available in urban markets. Smothered pork chops with apples. Thin pork chops cooked with apples and onions created a sweet and savory dish that was comforting and affordable. Boiled peanuts. A pot of peanuts boiled in salted water could serve as an entire meal when nothing else was available. It was simple but sustaining. Buttermilk pie. This tangy pie used basic ingredients like buttermilk, eggs, and sugar to create a custard dessert without expensive flavorings. Cabbage boiled in fatback. Cabbage cooked slowly with fatback created a soft, flavorful dish that could feed multiple meals from one pot. Rice and canned tomatoes. Rice cooked with canned tomatoes and bacon grease created a simple, flavorful dish that required minimal ingredients. Syrup. Bread. Slices of bread with molasses or syrup made a quick, energy-packed snack or light meal for seniors on tight budgets. Stewed pork neck bones and butter beans. Neck bones simmered with butter beans created a creamy, rich dish that stretched a small amount of meat into a full meal. Now let me ask you, how many of these meals have you actually seen before? And which one would you try today? Drop your answer in the comments because these dishes are more than recipes. They're memories. These meals were not created for luxury. They were created for survival, for dignity, and for making sure no one went without food. They represent a time when cooking was about resourcefulness and respect for every ingredient. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe to The Lost Taste, like this video, and share it with someone who remembers these meals. And remember, this video is educational and honors historical practices. It does not replace medical or nutritional advice.